Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the second event of the season for the Ginetta Racing Championships. We roll into the home of British motorsport this weekend, the magnificent Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, playing host to a busy weekend of one-make Ginetta racing around a circuit that has hosted some classic races down the years, and we're very much hopeful it will produce more of the same again in 2025. We are expecting some really competitive action based upon the qualifying sessions that we had earlier on this morning. 3 Ginetta races coming your way today, one from each of the categories, and we're kicking things off with the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship on what is, at the moment, a pretty good day for racing, really. It's overcast, but it is dry. The temperature, air temperature, in the mid-teens, track temperature creeping towards 30. And is that just a little bit of sunshine I see glinting through the clouds and shining upon this magnificent field of Ginetta G56s. Andy McEwen here in the commentary box, Mike Simpson from Ginetta alongside me once again for today's festivities at least. And Mike, we were discussing off air just a moment or two ago how incredibly tight the qualifying times were for the Ginetta GT Championship this morning. The top 10 covered by less than half a second. That is what I'd call close.
Absolutely. I mean, it surprised us. A couple of attempts over the top 5, and these are big, powerful V8 GT cars on the longest track of the calendar, and to have such tiny differences, it's going to be a special race. I can feel it.
Indeed so. There is the man who will start from pole position, Hadley Simpson, Zentek Motorsport, fastest in the qualifying session earlier on today by actually just over a tenth of a second. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that is an absolute age, given the fact the next tenth of a second takes you outside the top 5, and then beyond that, all the way down to about 9th or 10th place. So Hadley, having qualified on pole, Cameron Pratt-Thompson alongside him. What is the likelihood, do you think, that the race pace is going to be as close as it was in qualifying? In other words, does Hadley have any chance, do you think, of escaping?
All depends on setup. I mean, who's gone aggressive for qual? It's a really good slick tyre when it's new, but that's going to start to wear out, especially on the front. The front left takes a big hammering around Silverstone in all the long, high G-force corners. So I don't know. It's kind of, the drivers are all in the window. The teams have got the car there for qual, but I think it's who can look after that front tyre and preserve it the longest. But they're really excited about this. Hadley's come back strong. He didn't have the weekend at round 1 that he wished for, and also sat on second on the grid. Cameron Pratt-Thompson. He's new to Ginetta. It's only sort of second time really in the car, and SVG have done a great job to get that on the front row.
Indeed so. Cameron didn't finish the second race last time at Donington. I think he was sort of midfield in race 1. So that's a big jump forward in performance, and who knows, could challenge for a race victory here in only his 3rd race in the championship. Championship-wise, it was Archie Clark who came out of Donington on top. It was a pretty perfect weekend, really, for Archie, claiming the victory in race 1, the sprint race, and then in the 40-minute feature on Sunday, which included a mandatory pit stop, he was once again the man on the top step of the podium. So MDD Racing providing Archie Clark with a car that allowed him to seal the early championship lead. There was someone there who didn't get going. That might have been Alex Duncan, I think, in the number 27 car. Hopefully that car fires up. No, there it is, still stationary on the grid now. I think he might have got it fired up and underway on the green flag lap. But yes, Archie Clark, the current championship leader. The reigning champion, though, Mike, making a welcome return to the grid this weekend, Mackenzie Douglas. What are we expecting from Mackenzie? Of course, reigning champion, but the cars have changed an awful lot since he was last on the grid. We'll cover that maybe in a moment. First, let's take a look at how they're going to line up. It is Hadley Simpson and Cameron Pratt-Thompson front row. Nick White and Archie Clark, championship leader, starting together on row number 2. Harry Gamble has Robert Cronin for company on the 3rd row of the grid, and All Elite Motorsport 3rd row. Jack Collins and Mike Taylor share the 4th row, and row 5, as I said, for car number 1, Mackenzie Douglas, with Alex Duncan hopefully able to reclaim that 10th starting position, having stalled on the dummy grid. Ali Jafali will be 11th ahead of Luke Shaw. Peter Mangion and Carl Garnett then share row number 7. 8th row, getting into the AMPs now, of course, James Townsend and Emma Tomlinson on row 8. Row 9, Colin White and Oliver Fordham, and Amy Tomlinson at the back of the grid. Worth mentioning that it was equally as tight in the AMP class in qualifying. Luke Shaw was only a tenth of a second quicker than Peter Mangion, who was about 3/10 quicker than Carl Garnett, so expect some close competition for AM victory as well. Mike, so my question that I posed a moment ago, Mackenzie Douglas, reigning champion, you'd expect him to be up there setting the pace, but it's quite a different championship from what it was 6 months ago.
That's right, it's a much faster car, heavier, bigger tyres, more GT4-esque. But Mackenzie's doing a great job. The car was brand new yesterday morning. Had 3 sessions on Friday, and you know, he's gone and put it within a couple of tenths of pole. So I spoke to him after qualifying. He's a little bit frustrated. Said he had the traction control a bit high, but he's learning the new car. So you know, Mackenzie's a racer. He's been one of the coaches at Ginetta this winter, and I know he's keen. He's keen to come in and make an impression straight away.
Yeah, it's easy to look at that qualifying result and say, hey, Mackenzie Douglas, reigning champion, only 9th on the grid, while he was only 3.5 tenths of a second away from pole position, around a 2.6, nearly 2.7 mile, 3.7 mile circuit. That is fairly impressive indeed, how close they were, 3 tenths of a second. You can easily find that over the course of the race. It will be a 25-minute race then to get things started. It will be a 2x2 rolling start. Sunshine definitely now starting to peek out from behind the clouds. That could have an effect on tyre wear towards the latter part of the race. We did see a few drivers, I think, struggling with that at Donington a few weeks ago. The start, though, could be all important. Given how close the times were in qualifying, it is essential not to lose any track position, certainly if you're one of the drivers on the front row of the grid. And for those further back, they'll really want to try and gain some track position, because after that, it could be a little bit tricky to move your way up the order. Place your bets, everyone, then. Round number 3 of the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship here on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, about to roar into life. 2x2, they head across the grid hatchings when those red lights go out. We're away and racing. That happens now. And as you'd expect from a 2x2 rolling start, it's very, very evenly matched into Copse Corner. On the inside line, Hadley Simpson will prevail. And that looked to me like Nick White was trying to get to the inside of Cameron Pratt-Thompson for second. Did he succeed in doing so? We'll find out when they arrive at Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. No, Cameron Pratt-Thompson hunkered up behind Hadley Simpson. There could only have been a matter of inches between front and rear bodywork there, but they've kept it clean, at least at the front of the pack. 1 or 2 in the midfield running wide, and an opportunistic look on the inside there. The good move made by Harry Gamble. That's to try and move back up the inside of Robert Cronin. Those two actually shared the 3rd row. Gamble out-qualified Cronin, but Cronin got him off the line. Jack Collins on the grass as well as they head down towards Stowe Corner, Mike.
That's right. Hadley's got a little gap. Cameron Pratt-Thompson's defending from Archie Clark. Archie's made a great start and looking pretty aggressive at the beginning, but she's got Jack Collins running wide at Stowe, gone in a little bit deep, and it's so dirty offline there. If you put the car there, you just lose all the front completely.
And of course, he'd been on the grass only a few moments earlier down the Hanger Straight, so possibly already had some dirt on the tyres, which maybe led to that wayward moment down at Stowe Corner. Battle here amongst some of the Am Brigade. James Townsend is number 3, trying to nip up the inside of Emma Tomlinson's DTO Racing number 47, but to no avail for the time being. Down the Sir Lewis Hamilton Straight they go, into Abbey Corner. That would be the first corner if we were based on the Silverstone wing end of the circuit, but that is tradition for this Silverstone 500 weekend. We base ourselves on the old national pits, so they're still only about halfway round this opening lap at the moment. Carl Garnett there to the inside of the number 63 of Ali Jafali, but at the front of the field, as we sort of expected, not really anyone breaking away. That, though, is good to see, Mike. That is Mackenzie Douglas already making some progress.
Great little move on Mike Taylor there. He went in wide and got the undercut onto the Wellington Straight, so he'll have that clear into Brooklands, and there's a little gap to the next pack in front. So keen to look at Mackenzie's sector times and see if he can start hunting the lead few down.
Yeah, good point indeed. Now, I said that no one was getting away out in front. That's because Hadley Simpson had gone so far off into the distance, I couldn't see him on that previous camera shot. He does lead by some way at the end of the opening lap. The battle really is for second position at the moment. They blast across the line. Simpson leads. Pratt-Thompson hanging on to second just from Archie Clark, the championship leader, who is up 1 spot to 3rd. Nick White is 4th. He leads in Pro-Am, but the next car behind him is Harry Gamble, 2nd of the Pro-Am drivers. The Pro-Am drivers, by the way, are those with a black background to their number on the timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen. The white-black background is the Pro, and the orange backgrounds, they are the Am drivers, and that is one of them off the road, Emma Tomlinson, in the gravel at Copse.
I'm not sure what's happened there, but she's buried deep, so we could be looking at a safety car with that. Shame for Emma. I hope we get a replay. Didn't seem to be any contact on the car, so yeah, we'll see what happened. But going down the Hanger Straight now, Hadley's got a comfortable gap. Cameron's just looking a little bit more settled in second place, not in the mirrors as much, so defensive driving can stop, and he's just set the purple sector 1. So hopefully if we stay green, we could see that lead battle.
Yeah, well, that was 0.3 of a second quicker than Hadley Simpson, the race leader, through Sector 1. So already that gap is creeping down. It was 1.7 seconds. 1.7 seconds at the start of the lap, 1.4 at the end of Sector 1. There is the gap visually, and I'd say that's now almost under a second, isn't it, as they go past the Silverstone wings. So Cameron Pratt-Thompson pumping in some pretty good sector times. Clark third, doing his best to go after them. And who's that setting a purple middle sector? That is Cronin, isn't it? Robert Cronin down in 6th position. Gamble did make that move stick. Well, the Marshals doing their best to push this car out of the gravel trap at Copse Corner, but I fear that that is going to require some outside assistance. The call will be made momentarily as to whether we need a safety car or not, but for now, Emma Tomlinson's car going nowhere. Marshall's leaving the scene, and that probably means only one thing.
That's right, it's a shame, but it's kind of just settled into its rhythm now, the race, so everyone's relaxed. All those nerves from the start have gone, you know you're battling with, and people are thinking about the car. What's it doing? Is it turning in the rotation good at apex? Is the traction where you want it? The guys have a lot of adjustment in the car. They can adjust the ABS, the traction control systems, even the throttle map, the transition of how aggressive that throttle pedal is. So there's a lot going on there, as well as your mirrors being filled and looking ahead at the car. So yeah, let's hope we can stay green and see all the battles. I
think the plan at the moment might be to clear that car out of the way under yellow flags. Yes, it is. They've got the live snatch vehicle in place. It's a long way off the edge of the racetrack. There is actually more a wider runoff area there than the width of the racetrack, I think, between the cars flying by and the recovery operations. They should have that car out of the way before too much longer. This was the fight for 4th position, but perhaps more importantly for the Pro-Am race lead. Nick White has Harry Gamble tucked up behind, and Harry potentially trying to put himself in a position to make an attack down towards Stowe Corner. Nick White, though, is, well, these days, a fairly seasoned campaigner, knows how to defend a lead, and we saw it Donington Park was as quick as the pros.
That's right. You know, Nick's been around for a good number of years, but he still gets up and goes to work on a Monday. He's very much a pro-am, but he completely takes it to the pros. And Harry, he's doing a stunning job. It's only his 2nd year of racing. Obviously comes from the Gamble family, and all those boys are quick there. I was chatting with Harry's dad in the hospitality, and he's over the moon to see Harry enjoying the racing and racing so well. So those elite cars look pretty menacing sat in that pack. So we'll see. And Nick White's just dropped off a little bit there, maybe quite cautious under the yellow. But the lead pack are really going for it. We've got purple sectors from Pratt-Thompson in 2nd place, so that lead gap's going to come down.
Yeah, it does seem that Cameron maybe has an edge in Sector 1. On the previous lap, he was 0.3 quicker than the leader, 0.6 faster this time around. Mackenzie Douglas, though, I believe, has the fastest lap. Yes, he does. Said that quite a few times last year. There he is. You mentioned Mike a lap ago. He had that gap to bridge. Well, he's well and truly bridged that gap now. He's on the tail of the fight for 4th position and has another pro driver, Robert Cronin, to try and overtake. He'll want to do this as quickly as possible, because once you get settled into a rhythm behind a group of cars, it can sometimes be easy to get sort of stuck at their pace. Luckily not stuck, having had a spin at Village, is Oliver Fordham. He continued on his way. But yeah, Douglas will want to keep this momentum going, won't he?
That's right. We've got Mike Taylor and Jack Collins having a great battle into Loughfield. Jack's got a good run coming out of there. Always tricky to pass into Copse. You've got to be fully up the inside there. So we'll see if the move's going on. I've gone defensive as Mike, but Jack's trying to get the overrun. It's tight. That is so great racing, that side by side, big 1,300 kilo GT cars with great respect there. It's great racing.
Mike Taylor bravely hanging on around the outside, but that doesn't really help if he's still on the outside by the time we arrive at the right-hander at Beckett's corner. Surely he's not going around the outside here. Yes, he has. This is tremendous racing. He's up the curb. He still hasn't bought himself a ticket to the inside line, though, and I think Collins, for now, by the skin of his teeth, will hang on. But that was tremendous, respectful racing between the two of them, and I suspect the side-by-side action might not be over, because, again, Taylor has the run. He wants to try and get this position back, but the inside line at Stowe will not be made available to him.
I think Mike's looking to return the favour there around the outside, but no, as you said, Annie, fantastic racing, and they're still going at it. You know, this is half a lap, pretty much side by side, and this is what we want to see. We've got a great crowd come out on Saturday. The Woodcut and Copse grandstands are pretty full, and a little lock up there into the Vale. Jack's just about caught that, so what a shame. All the effort to make the move, and he's just lost it. And Luke Shaw's nipping up the inside for good measure too.
Yeah, Luke needed no second invitation there, did he? But that was, yeah, just a little snatch of the brakes into the club chicane, and it's then made to look a bit worse than it is, because once you've locked the brakes, it's hard to get them unlocked again. And of Of course, you're then carrying too much speed into the corner, so you hit the brakes even harder. Very late on the brakes is Archie Clark, and that was a peach of a move into the loop. Doesn't run wide on the exit, makes sure he doesn't run wide on the exit, and gets himself ahead of Cameron Pratt-Thompson, who on the previous lap had set the fastest lap of the race, 4/10 quicker than the leader. This time around, though, this battle will be losing them time, and it's Archie Clark who will have second place arriving into the braking zone at Brooklands. That is not debris on the circuit, by the way. I think that's the drone waiting to get us some more artistic shots of this final sequence of corners, at which Archie Clark is already starting to get away.
No, Archie felt he was quicker there, I think, and had to make the move. And it's a difficult decision because you catch in the leader. Do you sit there in third and try and make it a three battle for the win? But Archie was very decisive, great move, and defended it down the Wellington. And looks like he's got a car's length gap to Cameron Pratt-Thompson. So let's see what Archie Clark can do in some clear air. I know Hadley up front will be in his mirrors, seeing that lead, that change for second, and he'll be thinking the same as us.
Well, Simpson set the fastest lap last time around. Amazingly, though, only within a tenth of a second of him was Archie Clark, with the overtake included. So Archie Clark has got some pace and may be able to do something about the race leader. This battle continues to rage on for ninth. Meanwhile, Luke Shaw, who is the AM class leader at the moment, has got the number 12 of Jack Collins behind him. Jack entered into the pro category and really will want to try and get ahead of Luke Shaw as soon as he can. Luke, by the way, his nearest rival in class is Ali Jafali. Well, he's the third car in shot there, the grey and white car with the yellow highlights. That's the second place car in AM. So Luke Shaw will be quite happy with this situation. He's got a car between himself and Jafali, and it's a pro driver, so even if Ali can catch them, he won't get ahead of Collins without a fight.
That's right, coming into the chicane now, that's Nick White and Harry Gamble. This is the battle for the first and second in Pro-Am, and that's as close as you like. So that's going to be a battle all the way to the end. Both great racers. Obviously, Harry Gamble's got the support of his teammate behind, filling the mirrors of Nick White. So we'll see. We'll see how the deck comes in, how the drivers manage the 25 minutes. It's warm in these cars, so there's a lot going on in the minds of these drivers.
Is it a physically demanding circuit, Silverstone? It certainly throws a lot at you. Yes, you've got the few long straights where you can catch your breath, but a lot of changes of direction.
It's high G as well, and that you obviously feel that through your body, but with it being so wide, it sounds strange, but it's really hard to pick your line. You've got to be so accurate with Silverstone. There's set curbs you've got to take, there's set apexes that you can miss, and it's really a specialist circuit, Silverstone. So that level of concentration just fatigues you even more, and then you'll start to feel the heat towards the end, and yeah, that's part of it. That's part of being a racing driver.
Jack Collins ahead now of Luke Shaw, by the way. That's 9th position for Collins. So Shaw has lost his little buffer between himself and his nearest AM-class rival, Ali Jafali, who's closing in now as these two battle. Very wide line there through Luffield for Shaw, but never made the second apex. So that was a little bit too wide, maybe, through the final real corner on the circuit. Woodcote is easily flat out in these Ginetta GT Championship cars.
We have the fastest lap of the race by Archie Clark. Our second place car has done a 10.1, and that was a good 4/10 up on our leader, Hadley Simpson. So with 13 minutes to go, 1.1 seconds, the delta between those cars, that's going to close up.
Yeah, he was fastest in 3 of the 4 sectors on that lap was Archie Clark, including 2 absolute best sectors. So he is charging after the leader. 13.5 minutes still to go. So we're ticking towards half race distance, and the battle for the lead perhaps will hot up in the second half. There is the third place man, Cameron Pratt-Thompson, easy for me to say, drifting away slightly from Clark, but in fairness, the next 2 cars behind him aren't in his class, and he is extending the margin over them anyway, so Cameron Pratt-Thompson will be reasonably comfortable in third. This, though, is the man on the move, Archie Clark, the man who was the form man at Donington last time out. Would have been a little bit disappointed maybe to be on the outside of row number 2, but he's proven that despite the evenly matched pace of this front-running group, it is possible to overtake, and he might now be the fastest man on track in the race when it really counts.
He's pushing hard. You could see coming onto the F1 pit straight, the car moving and dancing at the rear. It's bucking on the brakes there. A handful of lock into the complex. And this is always a bit of jeopardy into here. It's a very low grip corner just coming onto the Wellington straight. You'll see them squirm on the power. You need minimal TC on the cars, and Archie runs wide there. He's absolutely giving this all he's got to catch up with Hadley. But you know, Hadley's cool. Hadley's there. He's doing a great job, and you know the gap's still at that 1.1 seconds. The sharing sectors. So yeah, it would be interesting. But is Hadley playing it cool? Is he just managing the gap and looking after his tyres and thinking of the next race? You don't know. And all these questions we've got, the drivers have got exactly the same questions.
It's something I think maybe the casual viewer doesn't quite understand. When you just tune in and you watch a race and you see the cars going around in circles, you kind of think maybe you might get a grasp on the fact that drivers are thinking about braking points and turning points and going quickly. So much more goes through the mind of a racing driver. They really are, they have to be master tacticians. They're thinking long game, especially because, as you referred to, they are limited on the amount of tyres they're allowed to use. You can't just bolt a fresh set of tyres on these things every session.
No, we only allow one set, so it's one set for qualifying and both the races. So it's, again, it's to teach you in endurance. And you know, if you go and do the World Championship and Le Mans, you be in the car for up to 2 hours on one set of tyres. You have to be able to look after them. So a little lock up in race one, you're going to have a difficult race two, and that's what this championship's for. It's to take you to that level of endurance, GT endurance, and it's a fantastic prep school for British or any worldwide, you know, GT4 race. We don't have the feature race this weekend that we did at Donington with the pit stop. It's two 25-minute sprint races because of the 500 race of British GT. But it's still, you know, it is endurance. You've got to manage the car. How much track limits do you take? Do you maybe risk some damage or a puncture? There's a lot going on. We've got a move coming into here by Harry Gamble, having a good look there, but the door was firmly closed by Nick White, and this battle will roll on.
Yeah, they've got rid of the really nasty curve that used to be on the inside of the left-hand element of the club chicane, so that's allowing drivers to run through there a bit more easily, side by side, I think. We saw that earlier on in the race. We saw it again there from Gamble. He wasn't quite able to get past Nick White, but at least made a nuisance of himself through the club chicane, and this has now brought Cronin and Douglas onto their tail as well. So it's a four-car battle for fourth position. The two at the front of it, though, are debating the Pro-Am lead. Nick White defensive into the loop. Now, this should give Gamble an advantage on the exit, except he gets a little bit too greedy with the right foot. A snap of oversteer, and that tiny bit of momentum lost should keep Nick White ahead for now.
It's great seeing the cars run so close, and you know, Lawrence and Clive said, I'm the technical director, designed these without a front splitter. There's no front aero on this car, which means you can run close. You know, Silverstone is renowned in an aero car. You get aero wash if you follow another car, but as you can see, these big V8 GT cars will run bumper to bumper, and it gives us close and exciting racing, and that's what Ginetta's about. We want fans to watch and people to come to the circuit and enjoy it as well as on TV. And it's great to see such a huge grid on the home of British motor racing on this great Saturday afternoon.
New fastest lap for Archie Clark, 2 minutes 10.091, but it's only a tenth and a half quicker than the leader. The gap's still over a second then. Simpson back to Clark, Pratt Thompson a bit lonely really in third, and then this magnificent battle going on for fourth position. The Pro-Am leaders, Nick White, just about keeping Harry Gamble at bay for now. We've followed this battle for a lap or so now, Mike. If you are Harry Gamble, where do you think you've got an advantage over Nick White? Where can you make the decisive move?
You can just see the exit's just hurting Harry. He's really committed on entry. He's one of the quickest men I've seen going into the corner. So maybe you try and flip that on its head. You know, Nick's driving very sensible, clean, getting a good rotation, getting a strong exit, which keeps him safe on the straight. So maybe give the tyre a little lap or two to chill off the front left and try and get a better exit than Nick. And Brooklands would be my shout. I'd try and get a run onto the Wellington straight and have a look at the inside into Brooklands.
Yeah, we almost saw that play out a lap ago, and then he got that little snap of oversteer coming out of the loop, did Gamble. Sort of robbed him of that opportunity to overtake. The lead gap coming down noticeably on this lap, about 0.3 of a second already. Archie Clark is quicker than Hadley Simpson, so the gap coming down now to only 0.75 of a second. The closest those two have been. There they go through Village. There is the Pro-Am battle. Nick White ahead, but we're heading into that part of the circuit now, really, where the move that Mike just referred to down at Brooklands has to begin. Again, same as last lap. Nick White defends on the way into the left-hander at the loop. Oh, can Gamble control the oversteer again? A little bit of a slide at the apex, Mike.
He's there. He's thinking the same as what we just said. He was desperate to get the run onto the Wellington, but too much steering lock combined with throttle gives you a snap oversteer. So he'll learn from that. He'll know, okay, I'd turn the TC up, or next time I need to open the steering more. But that is his chance. He will get a run down the Wellington and try and look for the inside or the outside at Brooklands. Both can work.
Well, before that lead changes, we might have an overall race lead change. This has been a storming lap for Archie Clark. Purple third sector means fastest of anybody. He is the first driver to get into the 2-minute 9s, 2-minute 9.816. Half a second quicker there than Simpson. Now, Mike, you touched upon this earlier, that maybe Hadley was mad managing the tyres. Could it actually be that, as we now move into the final third of the race, it's Clark who's got the grip advantage?
We'll soon see. I mean, it's an impressive lap time. You know, it's within 6-7 tenths of quali. Tyres are getting older. The cars are fueled more for this race, and everything's hot now. You know, the tyres, driver, car. But you know, Archie's there. He's had a great sector one as well. So no, Hadley's going to be in his mirrors. Doesn't need to go defensive yet, but he's having a look. He's there in the rear-view mirror. He's safe for another lap, I think, but it's coming.
Just about see Hadley Simpson's head there turn distinctly towards the rear-view mirror for at least half of the Hanger Straight. He wasn't watching where he was going because he wanted to see what Archie Clark was doing. There is now an opportunity to attack into the club chicane, and so defensive goes the leader. This is the first time that Hadley Simpson has had to defend this lead all race long. He tries to park the car at club. There's almost an overlap. No, not quite enough room available for Archie Clark, but he's asking the right questions now of Hadley Simpson, and that defensive move from the race leader, that's blood in the water now for Clark. He knows he's got Simpson worried, and he still has 6.25 minutes to try and find a way through. Clark is quick through the right-hander at Abbey, then flat out through the left-hander at Farm, onto the brakes at Village, just about to the inside line, gets Hadley Simpson, but the move surely is coming soon. The inside won't be available at the loop, but we've been talking about this for the last few laps with the Pro-Am battle. A good exit from the loop, which Clark has got, could yield an opportunity at the end of the Wellington Straight. Simpson driving completely in the mirrors here, immediately moves to the left-hand side of the road to cover. He's making this as hard as he can, Mike.
Simpson's going to have a tough 5 minutes. You know, Archie's there, he's playing around, he's seeing what Hadley does, and that is a brave move around the outside. We're at the pinch point, it's not there yet, but his intentions are clear. You know, Hadley just needs to keep calm. He's got a good car, he's led the whole race, he's the one to still beat. So, like Nick White's done a great job of keeping Gamble behind, just focus on your exits and you will still be very hard to pass.
Indeed he will. Let's see if he can manage to keep it together then. 5 minutes and 20 seconds to go as they head through Cops Corner. So realistically, still 3 more laps of this remain for Hadley Simpson. But Clark, having now caught the leader, is maybe been knocked out of his rhythm ever so slightly. That little side-by-side exchange won't have done Clark any favours either. But he will have had a little bit of a look at where he might have a pace advantage over the leader. He also picked up a track limits warning, though, did Clark, on that lap. To be mindful of that as we head through the final few laps. Again, nose to tail they run down the Hanger Straight, a car length in it going onto the straight. How much of a slipstream effect do you think Clark will be getting from that far back?
You get a couple of K, you'll see that in the speed traps now, and you can see he's just come in at the top end. Hadley's felt he has to go deep, needs to keep it tight. So easy to run wide and get a bad run down to the chicane. But now it's very, very tight again. He's having to white line it here, so yeah, tremendous pressure for Hadley. But great racing at the moment. They've got a clear gap behind them, 4 minutes to go. So, you know, if I was Archie, if there's not an easy move, I'd just sit there for a little bit longer. We don't want this to be a 3-car battle. Hadley's already made his intention clear. You're not getting past, I'm going defensive. But this will allow Cameron Pratt-Thompson back into this race, which just makes it more exciting for us.
Yeah, they've lost the best part of a second to him already on this lap alone. So that gap is coming down rapidly. And Clark will want to try and get the move made before the third-place man arrives on the scene. But as Mike was saying, the more he tries to make that happen, the quicker Cameron Pratt-Thompson will catch up. Is there a gap to the inside of the loop? Answer, no. And so again, Archie Clark takes the wide line in, and then the tight line on the exit of the corner. Down onto the Wellington Straight they will head. And it will be nose to tail again into the braking zone at Brooklands. Again, to the middle of the road goes Hadley Simpson. Archie Clark then trying everything, but he's had a couple of laps now hunkered up behind the race leader. And the more attacks that he throws the way of Hadley Simpson, the more Simpson then learns where he needs to defend, how he needs to defend, and actually the less likely this move becomes for Archie Clark to pull it off.
It's a complete cat and mouse game, and both are great drivers. You can tell they've come from good karting background, and Hadley's new to Ginetta, but he's raced for a couple of seasons now, and he's placing that car really well. Such a big circuit, you know, the widest and longest circuit in the UK, and you know, he's making that Zentek Ginetta really wide. So, you know, both are going for overall honours, class honours, and it's, yeah, just keep it clean, guys. You know, it's the start of the weekend. You need points. You've got a championship to think about. Obviously, Archie's at the top. Hadley was frustrated from round 1. He needs the points in his head. He needs to be really pushing Archie. So, but we've got the battles all the way through. Nick White's still there. Harry Gamble's trying to get past Nick, but Nick's putting up a you know, a veteran defence.
Well, Gamble was actually ahead at the line by 17 thousandths of a second. They must have been side by side into Copse corner, but Nick White has managed to keep the lead for now. Don't know where to look in this race, but that's exactly what we want. There is excitement up and down the order, including for the overall race lead, where Archie Clark tries the outside into the club chicane. There's no grip on the outside through the left-hander, but then a mistake for Simpson. He's wide through the second part of the chicane, and that gives Archie Clark the inside. They are inches apart, almost trading paint. Beautifully clean racing between the two of them, but Clark at last has the inside line into a meaningful corner. Abbey, that's the best place to be, and Archie Clark goes through. Terrific stuff.
Absolutely opportunist move. That was great. Great racing by both drivers. That is one of the most difficult corners onto the pitch straight, and there was nothing between them. You know, couldn't put cigarette paper between them. No contact, and you know, Hadley, he'll be revved up with that. You know, the rear's just moving around for him, but he'll be wanting Archie back, and there's still going to be another lap. And we've got Cameron Pratt-Thompson in the mix for good measure.
Indeed, so don't forget Cameron Pratt-Thompson was second fastest in qualifying earlier on this morning. Archie Clark has come from fourth on the grid to lead now with just over a lap to go. Through the left-hander at Brooklands, which tightens at the exit, use the curb to rotate the car, and then into the right-hander at Luffield Corner. It was a timely move, that, for Clark, really, because just as he made the move is the point at which Pratt-Thompson arrived well and truly on their tail. A mistake there for Simpson, and, well, whether it's pressure, tyres, or just annoyance at the fact that he's lost the lead, couple of mistakes creeping in now for the man who led much of this race. He needs to be careful, because one more mistake like that could cost him second place.
He'll be getting pretty frustrated in that car now, but it starts racing, and what a show these guys are putting on. We're on to the final lap now, and you know, the lead three cars, I think that'll stay. I don't think there's going to be any more moves unless there's a mistake. And you know, my attention is the Nick White Pro-Am battle with Harry Gamble. You know, that is still super close, and who's going to put a move on? I just feel somebody's going to try something. Mackenzie Douglas is in there. Mike Taylor's joined that battle. So it's going to be super close.
And this, for the AM class, is just as tight as well. Luke Shaw has still got Ali Jafali filling his rear-view mirrors, and Ali running out of time if he wants to try and claim an AM class victory. They were only a couple of tenths apart at the start of the lap. So Pro-Am arrives at Stowe, and Nick White, for the first time really, defending at the end of the Hanger straight, and that means that Gamble must have been a little bit closer that time into the braking zone. Nick White keeps him behind for now, but Gamble is hunting, tries the outside. Now, this is what eventually led to the overall race lead changing. I don't think we're going to see the same mistake from Nick White, though, that we saw from Hadley Simpson. Indeed we don't. So Nick White keeping not only Gamble at bay, but also Cronin, Douglas and Taylor. As Mike quite rightly says, it's a five-way fight, this, for fourth position, but it's the two cars at the front of the queue who are battling for a class win. Not sure what happened there, but suddenly Gamble lost some ground.
Just got a little bit loose onto the pitch straight, and that just killed the momentum. You could just see Nick White just pull away, and that's put Harry under pressure from his teammate Cronin now. So the lead three have got a car's length between them, and that's pretty set. But yeah, this battle, unless Harry gets such an amazing run out, he'll struggle.
Ooh, Mackenzie Douglas round the outside of Cronin. That's a brave move. It might just work. He's got some good momentum down the Wellington straight, and Taylor might try and make this 3 wide by the time we arrive at the braking zone. He's thinking about it, doing more than thinking about it. Gets to the inside of Cronin. Douglas has gone through. Taylor gets sort of blocked by Douglas's defensive move, and it's 3 into 1 as they go through the left-hander at Brooklands. There's a squeeze from Taylor. Cronin has to back out of it and loses 2 places in the final few corners.
Such a shame for Cronin.
That is a shame, isn't it? Archie Clark, though, he's celebrating. He wins once again in the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship. Even when it looked like he was down after qualifying, he found a way to rise to the top. Nick White claims the victory in the Pro-Am class after race-long pressure from Harry Gamble. And in the AM category, similar story, really. Luke Shaw completes his defensive masterclass against Ali Jafali to get the AM class win. Well, so much drama in that race. A brilliant drive from this man, Archie Clark, though. I sort of said at the start of the race that given how evenly matched they were in qualifying, Mike, it might be difficult for Clark to actually make 3 decisive moves and get to the front, but he found a way.
Oh, super job. You know, not a mark on that car. He raced well. You know, 4th to 1st, and you know, he had to go defensive at the beginning and put the pressure on, and you know, for such a young driver straight out of Ginetta Juniors, that was a professional drive. Fantastic to see.
He's really got the handle of this car, hasn't he, very quickly. Given the extra power, the extra weight, everything about this car is just several steps up, really, from a Ginetta Junior, and he has wrapped his head around it remarkably quickly. He's the man to beat in the early stages of the championship, but will the others be able to strike a final blow, maybe in race 2 later on? and stop him in his tracks. Nick White, brilliant defensive drive in the Pro-Am class as well. Harry Gamble really made him work for that. But we've seen this from Nick in the past, haven't we? He's fairly unflappable when he's in the lead of a race, no matter how much pressure he's under. He's
a great bloke, is Nick, and he's like that, you know, face to face. Whenever he wants to chat with him, he's such a calm, well-calculated driver, and yeah, very, very confident. He knows what's in his toolbox, and yeah, that's how you win championships, and a great class win for Nick White.
What I liked about Nick White's defensive drive was that he wasn't over-defending at any point. You could say maybe Hadley Simpson, as soon as Archie Clark arrived on his tail, really went defensive. Nick White was only defending when he had to, and maybe that's what allowed him to hang on to the win. Luke Shaw victorious in the AM class. It's a competitive AM class this year, but Shaw and Jafali, at the moment, at least this weekend, the pace setters, and it was Luke Shaw who held off Ali Jafali to get the victory in race 1 of the weekend. So, breathe everyone, we get to do that all again later in the weekend. As Mike said, just the 2 sprint races for the Ginetta GT Championship at Silverstone. The first of those sprints, though, was won by MDD Racing's Archie Clark. That's been a familiar sight so far this year. They'll be looking to continue that again tomorrow. Hadley Simpson came home in second ahead of Cameron Pratt-Thompson. Nick White in 4th position was the Pro-Am winner, but only just having fended off Harry Gamble all race long. Mackenzie Douglas came through from 9th on the grid to 6th, the drive you'd expect in a way from the reigning champion. On his return to the championship, Mike Taylor, Robert Cronin and Jack Collins were next, while Luke Shaw completed the top 10, but more importantly, took the AM class victory by only a length or so over Ali Jafali. Alex Duncan had a bit of a troubled race to 12th, and then the rest of the AM class behind: Carl Garnett, Peter Mangan, Colin White, James Townsend, Oliver Fordham and Amy Tomlinson. Well, it's Archie Clark who got the victory in round number 3 of the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship, charging through from 4th on the grid to claim a well-earned race victory, and had to get past some very, very tough opponents in that race. He made a decisive early move against Cameron Pratt-Thompson, chased down Hadley Simpson, and managed to come home a race winner once again, extending with it, of course, his championship lead. Let's take a look back, shall we then, at some of the highlights of round 3. The first of 2 races on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit for the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship saw a very competitive qualifying session, thankfully leading to an equally competitive race. It was Hadley Simpson who held the lead from pole early doors, with Cameron Pratt-Thompson second, but Archie Clark, the championship leader, was already on the move. From 4th on the grid, he was 3rd, heading through Maggotts and Beckett's for the first time. Emma Tomlinson's race ended in the Cops Corner gravel trap, but that did not require a safety car, and the race continued briefly on the yellow flags. Side-by-side racing well and truly resumed not long after that. This was a brilliant battle going on early on in the race, as number 12 of Jack Collins tried and ultimately failed to keep Mike Taylor behind. That mistake from Collins also briefly allowed the AM class leader Luke Shaw through, although Collins would eventually get him back. Archie Clark, having got past Cameron Pratt-Thompson, then chased down the race leader Hadley Simpson, forced a mistake out of Hadley with only a lap and a half to go, and after a brilliant side-by-side exchange, it was Clark who moved through into the lead of the race, and from there never looked back. Behind them, there was a good late battle which saw Mackenzie Douglas pick up another position. 6th place was his reward for a hard-fought drive, whilst unfortunately for Robert Cronin, he was going rather the wrong way. Archie Clark, though, victorious for a 3rd time in 2025. Can he continue that in race 2?